Anthony White from the movie blog, big fan, is going to just dive into it. I want to kind of pick up where Tamara started. It's no secret, right? You got a young black genius in Riri, but there's a pattern of pre-backlash. Ryan, I know you used to this, right? You've done this for a few Marvel projects, but did you and Shanaka go into this process knowing that this was coming? And if so, did that weigh on you going in? Did you warn her? Does Disney have any internal preparation for this stuff? How does it work?
Hmm.
Mm.
I mean, it's a great question, bro. um,
I only get one.
yeah. No. I think, look, like, um, I mean, yeah,
So I had to stop just for a quick second because you can see how much this question weighs on folks. As a matter of fact, I don't know why I didn't do this. We've been going live for an hour and a half. I should have brought your comments up over here on the stage. My bad, y'all. Your comments will now appear on the stage, over over there on the right. Yeah, over there on the right, it'll appear on the stage. My bad, y'all. That should have been up there. But I had this moment where it dawned on me that it weighs on them because we see it from our side, but we're just seeing it on Twitter. But we never see them talk about it. Like we talk, you hear them talk a little bit like, "Oh, it was bad. It was, it happened. It was a thing." But they don't. They kind of aren't in the best circumstance to speak about it frankly when they're at work. So I asked them mainly because I was curious because this is something that keeps happening. Disney projects specifically, or more often than not, shows like The Acolyte or Moses Ingram and Obi-Wan, we've seen this. Does Disney help? What are they doing now that this has happened with so many projects consistently? What is their response and how do they get involved? And, you can see this coming a mile away with Ironheart, a young gifted. Oh, that was weird. Woo! That was weird. But anyway, yeah. You see these folks in these roles, we never get to hear them really talk about their experience. So yeah, let me pull this back up and let's hear what he had to say about that.
yes. The answer is yes to all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like in you know, look, whenever you uh breaking ground in spaces that are thought of as not being for you, you know, um, this happens. You know what I mean? Like in um we not you the entertainment business is not, it's not unique in that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's in every business, right? Um, what I will say is that this show is for people who not permanently online expressing their opinions about everything. You know what I'm saying? Like this show is for, this show is for people who busy living their lives, bro. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is, like, as a comic book fan growing up, the comic book shop wasn't a place that I always felt safe in. You know what I'm saying? It took my older cousin who was a comic book fan to take me in there with him. You know what I mean? We got looks going in those places. You know what I'm saying? But it was through the bravery of my cousin who was a Gen Xer, black comic book fan in Oakland. You know what I mean? Who didn't care what kind of looks he got. You know what I'm saying? Or who said what to him? You know, he loved those characters. You know what I mean? He brought his younger cousin in there, not knowing I was gonna grow up and become a director, direct Black Panther, but because he wanted that space to be open to me.
Anyway, yeah, I wanted to give you guys this tidbit of this. I love this interview. I'm shit. I gotta pat myself on the back. I was nervous asking him that question, but I was like, I'm tired of waiting for next time. And that happens sometimes with us as interviewers. We'll be like, you know what, next time I'll ask them the hard question because I don't want to piss them off. I don't want to rub them the wrong way. I don't want to do any of that. And I got tired of waiting for next time. So I decided to ask my hard hitting question first. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's get into this foundation right quick and talk a little bit about season 2, episode 3. So, as usual, if you guys have joined us on one of these before, what I tend to do is I bring up my old deep dive videos from season 2 where we go into all of the fun stuff that happened. And we're going to revisit it with a new perspective, with a new lens, and talk about it knowing how season 3 ended and look at it from the perspective of knowing everything that happened, right? The non-linear storytelling, the way that everything lined up, the way that it started to set up season 3 all throughout season 2 in preparation for season 3, which comes out next week. And I got to tell you guys, I've been, I'm in season 3 right now. We are so fucking back. But anyway, let's go ahead. Let's get into this season 2, episode 3, deep dive and reaction. I'm going to pause it at certain moments to just do a little bit more introspective and dive in analysis. Let's go.
Thank you, FANDation. We're back with another recap of our favorite, the future is effed up show, FANDation. I'm your host, Anthony, and I'm going to do my best to be your guide in this far-out show as we're picking up where episode 2 ended with Gale and Salvor reeling over what they learned about the future with the mule, Salvor not surviving, and it being a post-apocalyptic world where they get chased by Terminators. Oh, there's also the Cleonic dynasty meeting the in-laws. That was a lot of fun. And everything that's going on with the first foundation. This episode is titled King and Commoner, which seems to continue the trend of double entendres in the title, with one part referring to what we see with the intergalactic thief Holber Mallow, and also with the Cold War between Brother Day and Bel Riose. That doesn't even scratch the surface on what we see happen with Harry, and I can't wait to dive into it. But first, do me a favor, if you're new here, please consider giving this channel a like and subscribe to keep up with our weekly Foundation analyses and breakdown, and enable notifications so you're able to watch these videos right after they publish in order to work with us to try to figure out the mystery of the future. This week's episode opens with Gale and Salvor looking at a map of the planet Ignis, which is supposed to be the home of the second foundation. Gale and Salvor also talk about how Gale's vision saw Salvor taken out, right next to her in the far future. Salvor is clearly not taking it well and is seriously in a weird place mentally as she wrestles with knowing how her life ends. Harry shows up but doesn't have words of encouragement. Instead, he tells them that there are a bunch of ways that they can end up at that point and then takes control of the ship to land them on the planet below. What we find out is that Harry didn't bring them to where they thought they were going, but instead, he brought them to a planet called Unis World, a former mining site. Gale and Salvor are shocked that Harry brought them there, but what Harry isn't being clear about is the fact that the Prime Radiant told Harry that he needed to go to this planet back in episode 1. Gale still has trust issues with Harry and is pissed that he still seems to be withholding information. Harry has little patience for his tormentor, basically egging her on about how the Prime Radiant required this trip. Harry needs someone to carry the Prime Radiant into the mine so that he can transfer his consciousness back inside and explore what's in the mines waiting for him. Gale still isn't with the ship, but Salvor forces her hand when she throws the Radiant into the desert and just yells at Gale to just effing do it, with Gale having no choice but to agree. We then switch back to Terminus, back to the site of the vault. The people there are reacting to how the vault incinerated Warden Yeager, and requested the presence of Holber Mallow. The High Cleric, Polly, is debating the next steps with the rest of the decision makers of Terminus about whether or not they would actually bring Holber Mallow to the vault. Polly absolutely wants to do it, explaining how much he believes in Harry's plan, and they give it and they agree to find Holber Mallow. We then switch to Polly and Constant talking about the reputation of Holber Mallow, and they talk about him when we learn that Holber had been trained with the priesthood, but was more interested in being a hustler. Apparently, he sold 38 of Selden's finger bones before the Foundation revoked his trade rights. Now, just listening to their description of this character, I can't help but imagine Holber Mallow basically being the Han Solo of the world of Foundation, with him being more of a grifter than anything else. Polly and Constant then board a spaceship and take off in search of Holber. We then switch back to Gale and Harry making their way across the desert towards the mine that Harry wants to.
There we go. So just wanted to stop real quick. So we need to be prepared to pay attention to this. I can't say much, but this is important. Season 3 does a lot to set up season 2 does a lot to set up season 3, and season 3 is not at all shy about what happened in season 2 and its impact of what's happening in season 3. So I did want to just emphasize everything that happens with Holber Mallow and just highlight this one little thing here about we learned at the end of the season that all of this storytelling is not being told in chronological order. So, for example, everything with Harry White, Gale, and Salvor happens way before everything that happens with Harry Black and on Terminus. There are actually two different sequence of events that are being told in parallel, but they actually happen one after the other. So we're learning about how Holber was being requested by Harry Black to come to the vault, but that doesn't happen until well after the events that we see here. So I just wanted to point that out real quick.
To investigate, Harry explains the history of the planet and how the Empire destroyed the planet after siphoning it for all of its resources. Harry and Gale then debate the merit of Gale trying to use psychohistory to save Salvor's life in the future. They argue for a bit, like they always do, and Harry then, surprisingly, uses this moment to tell Gale about his life partner Yana, who helped Harry create psychohistory, and explain that she could also read the Prime Radiant. After a bit more chit-chat, they finally make their way to the entrance of the mines. Called the Lepsis Penal Colony, where we see what looks like a labor camp with a bunch of indentured servants working the land. A spaceship arrives and Demerzel makes her way off the ship and starts heading towards one of the servants. We learn that this is the man named Bel Riose that Demerzel was recommending to Brother Day last episode. She offers Bel Riose his freedom if he investigates the Foundation. They haggle back and forth for a bit, with Demerzel promising to provide the other servants with better equipment and medical care. Bel Riose is very callous about getting back in the service of the Empire until Demerzel promises to reunite Bel Riose with his husband, Glaewyn Kerr. The sound of his husband's name gets a strong reaction from Bel Riose, and he finally agrees to go with Demerzel to speak with Brother Day. We then switch back to Gale and Harry walking through a cave until they come across a mysterious door in the cave. Gale is still feeling like a contrarian and argues with Harry on whether or not it's really a door or it's just a wall, with Harry just giving her a clue to just try to open the effing door. And I gotta say that Gale is getting kinda annoying with her wanting to fight with Harry every step of the way. I get it, she lost Rage, but I'm really getting tired of her and her pity party about losing her guy. Gale finally gets the door open, and when the door opens, we see the Prime Radiant, Calais, walking toward them, freaking Gale all the way out because she knows this woman died centuries ago. Harry then tells Gale that she should leave now and tells her that if Gale doesn't hear from Harry in 6 hours, then Gale should just leave the planet as well. The Prime Radiant ends the conversation and closes the door/wall behind her. We then switch to
Yeah, I had to pause it right there because that was a lot going on right there with Calais, and she's bringing Harry back to life, and I just got to say, all of that is important because I had this theory going into it that Calais had an ulterior motive for bringing Harry back to life, and even the characters muse about this in the season a little bit when I think it was Salvor who told Harry that she thinks Calais wanted Harry to have some skin in the game. And I also noticed how the fact that Harry was no longer digital, it gave him a vulnerability that he didn't have before when he got transferred into a physical form. Now, before, Harry had this ability to just, be immune to all things. He's a robot. You can't shoot him. He's intangible. But now, as a human form, he can be touched. He's vulnerable. And not only can he be touched and can he be vulnerable, he can be controlled, or at least subdued. And that's pretty much what ended up happening, because we ended up seeing Talon Bond and the Mentalics attack and trap Harry. They imprisoned him to the point where they tried to make it seem like Harry left Gale and Salvor behind, but really, Talon Bond was trying to take him out. So I feel like that there was intent behind the Prime Radiant insisting that Harry go to Unis world before going on to Ignis to create the second FANDation so he could get his human body. So I did want to just kind of point this scene out because I think that it's going to be one of those things that we get into in more detail as we continue to move forward. But yeah, let me you know what? I'm gonna save my FANDation theory for the end. I'm gonna save it for the end. Let's continue.
Someone new? Like a king or a general sitting on a throne in a room of his soldiers and peasants? Here's a cool little moment, and we see Holber Mallow speaking with the leader of this group, let's just call him the king for now, of people using a hologram to alter his appearance to look like someone named Trader Punions. Apparently, Holber is trying to con the people of the planet by selling them a useless device. The device that he's trying to sell them is one that he refers to as a castling device, named after the chess maneuver in which a king and a rook trade places. Holber tries to explain how it works and how these two bracelets allow people to teleport and physically switch places. And when Holber goes to demonstrate the device, we see that the device that he used was part of a con to steal royal jewelry from the king leading these people. Holber quickly does this and tries to escape on the spaceship, but they're all over him like peanut butter on jelly, and they're able to arrest Holber on his ship before he escapes. But he seems oddly calm about all of this. He asks that they return some of his things after his trial, and the other officers inform him that the ruler has already ordered his execution. We then switch to Demerzel walking Bel Riose around the palace, allowing him an opportunity to freshen up before meeting with Empire. Bel Riose declines to wash up and insists on meeting Brother Day the way that he is. Bel Riose meets up with the Cleons, where he learns why he was brought to the Empire. Brother Day explains to him that he wants Bel Riose to investigate the FANDation and find out if that's a threat to the Empire. Bel Riose then asked to speak with Brother Day in private, and he's granted the opportunity to actually do it, and the room empties. They speak frankly, and Bel Riose takes this opportunity to throw some jabs at Brother Day that he's clearly been holding.
The best mattress deals so you can get your best sleep only during the 4th of July mattress sale at Raymore Flanagan. Combined sale price.
Servitude. They antagonize each other a bit, with Day giving Bel Riose an ultimatum to either hit him or he kills Bel Riose's husband, Glawen. Bel Riose refuses to strike the Emperor because he took an oath to serve the Empire. Brother Day used this tactic to test the loyalty of Bel Riose after being a servant for so long. After Bel Riose passes this test, we see that he's allowed to reunite with his husband Glawen in the other room. These two have a touching reunion, and we get a cool moment of Bel Riose finally cleaning up, brushing his teeth, cutting his hair, and we get to see a glimpse of the man underneath all that hair and filth. It's like my guy went from looking like Gandalf to Gale, as we finally see the strong military leader that everyone was speaking about. If you look close enough, it almost looks like Bel Riose has scars on his face similar to Gale's after she had her prayer stones removed from her cheeks. I don't know quite what this means, but if he's a Synaxian or something like that, he could be in the same group as Gale. Maybe he's just been in battle, maybe these are just scars from his battles, but I did notice this, and it did stand out to me that the camera focused on it even for just a moment. We see that Brother Day and Demerzel are observing Bel Riose and his husband Glawen, and these two share a somewhat intimate moment as they watch Bel Riose and Glawen getting intimate, with Demerzel actually caressing Brother Day's face while talking to him. This whole moment is more than a little creepy now, as we certainly don't know Demerzel's motives for creating this intimate relationship with this Brother Day. The show has hinted that she may possibly have aspirations of leading the Empire here and there, but she's not exactly clear with her motives, nor is she easy to read. I hope we get the AI fight of my dreams in the future, and we get to see Demerzel fight the Prime Radiant in some epic showdown, but that's neither here nor there. We then switch to Gale making her way back to the ship after leaving Harry in the mines with the Prime Radiant. She reunites with Salvor, and Gale expresses her concern about leaving Harry in the cave with what looks like Calais, which doesn't make any sense to Gale since the real Calais passed away centuries ago. They notice that the 6-hour time limit is up, and they start getting ready to leave Harry behind. Salvor doesn't like how Gale and Harry are when they're together anyway, and she's ready to leave Harry behind, but Gale is hesitant to do it. After a small pep talk from Salvor, Gale finally agrees to leave the planet and continue their way to the site of the second FANDation on Loomis. We then switch to Brother Constant and Polly making their way through a crowd of people and inadvertently walk into an execution in progress. The crowd loves it, and the brothers are mostly disturbed by the sight, especially when they see that Holber Mallow is next up for execution. Polly sees Holber being carted to his execution and quickly blurts out to Holber that he's needed back at the FANDation, and then petitions the king to have a moment alone with Holber. The king declines and insists on moving forward with the execution. The crowd loves it, and Holber is still very jovial about the whole thing, even making some lighthearted jokes. Holber then starts making a very long-winded goodbye speech as he's on the verge of execution, and it's very obvious, to me at least, that Holber is stalling for time. Before he can be executed, we see that Holber has used the device to swap places with the ruler again, and now has the royal diamond from the ruler's staff and makes his escape on a flying aircraft. Polly quickly realizes that Holber is planning on stealing their spaceship in order to escape the planet, and they quickly make their way back to the ship and they safely escape. Polly sets a course with Terminus once he's reunited with Holber on the ship, and Holber is not really interested in going to Terminus and tries to use an escape pod to go somewhere else. He's then hilariously jabbed in the neck with the same needle we saw Constant use last episode that makes Holber begin spontaneously vomiting. We then switch back to Bel Riose and his husband Glawen, now on a starship, as they debate whether or not they should serve Empire. Glawen thinks they're moving too fast and Bel Riose needs more time to recover. Bel Riose insists that they need to move forward, especially with this Brother Day in charge. They continue onward until they're taken to one of the outer rings in space where they dock, and they meet up with General Bel Riose's crew from his ship. And man, this whole moment when he walks onto the bridge, I can't help but get Star Trek vibes with the way that they revere him, and it's like seeing Captain Picard return to the bridge of the Enterprise. Bel Riose takes time to exchange some words with some crew members when they finally set a course for the outer ring to investigate the actions of the FANDation. We then switch back to Gale and Salvor preparing to leave the planet when they suddenly drop beneath the surface of the planet. And they have a cool little action sequence where we see that the mining robots on the planet are still very active and do their best to make sure that Salvor and Gale do not make it off the planet alive. Salvor is able to make it out of the whatever underground cavern that they fell into when the robots then divert their attention to something else. Salvor is able to detect something alive in the mountains where Gale left Harry behind. Salvor deduced that it must be Harry. They make their way over to the hand of the monument where Gale rappels down and saves Harry from certain death as the death robots from earlier are in hot pursuit, as the Prime Radiant just watches from within the caves. I mean, they just barely escape.
This brilliant device keeps your home cool in summer, even during heat waves and power outages. It's smaller than a lunchbox, cools any room within.
As they get back on the ship, Gale asks Harry how it's possible that Harry has a body, and he doesn't have a clue. And right when we think we might get some more answers, end credits. Wow, yo, that was another cool episode. I have so many questions. How the hell did the Prime Radiant get in those caves? What the hell do these caves mean? And how is this algorithm both sentient and able to travel from place to place? How the F does Harry have a body? Why does the vault want Holber Mallow? And how much do you want to bet that they want Holber to steal something that will rely?
So, yes. So this reminded me, right? I have a theory. Let me get myself up on the main stage. Hold on. Let me move this off. I have a theory, and I'm gonna put it out here because there's only a couple of us here, and if you're watching this, you're gonna get the first taste of it. I'm gonna put this out later as a different thing, but you're gonna get the first taste of this theory. And let's talk about it. I think we're thinking about this 3D problem in a 2D way. We think this show is about Harry Seldon and humanity versus Cleon and his genetic dynasty, but I think the show is secretly about Demerzel versus the Prime Radiant. I think this is a continuation of the Robot Wars. Now, the Robot Wars were a series of wars of robots versus other robots. Basically, like, the robots were built with 3 rules. One was to not harm humans directly or indirectly through inaction, cause harm to humans. The second one was to obey every command a human gives. And the third one was to self-preservation, to make sure that they don't get destroyed. And I guess the robots at one point were growing in numbers to the point where it got challenging for them to really discern they went to war. They went to war. And they fought. And we saw back in season 1 and season 2 that Demerzel told us that she was a general in the army. In fact, we actually even saw that she was the one that Cleon kept as a trophy in his basement. And she's the one that I think Calais is trying to outwit. You not with me yet? All right. Like I said, I'm going to give this to y'all. There's only 8 of us here. Remember how back in season 2, it opened with Harry in that weird torturous state? And we found out that he was conscious for 138 years in that weird black and white space. It was looking real Stanley Kubrick-ish. We saw he was there for a real long time, like really, really, really long time, until then after a while he started to figure out how to navigate that space better. And then we also saw that there was another being there. A being that didn't bother to interact with Harry for like 138 years. What if it was doing it on purpose to break Harry? And then at the end, fill him with glorious purpose, instructing him to go and meet her on Unis World. We saw Calais and Harry in the Prime Radiant. First, she appeared to him, I think, as his wife, and like she took on multiple forms. But in the end, she told him to go there, and he went there before he went on to Ignis and he got imprisoned. She let him loose on Gale, full of glorious purpose, and then set him on his way to get entrapped. And remember how back in season 2, they had that moment, they were on the ship with Salvor, and Harry kind of glitched when he first saw Gale. Salvor, when he first saw Gale and Salvor. He was like, oh, yeah, I remember meeting Salvor. I remember meeting her in the vault. But wait, that wasn't me. That was the other me. How the hell would Harry White, have memories of Harry Black meeting Salvor in the vault? My theory is that Calais is the reason. I think Calais is the one pulling the strings. I think she's the one that actually somehow got Harry White here and got involved, maybe even created him and sunk her teeth into the second foundation, manipulating it from afar. I also suspect that Calais at some point interacted with Raish and persuaded him to jettison Gale in the escape tube rather than let her stay to lead the first foundation. I don't have any evidence of this one yet. I don't know why she would do that, but this is my suspicion. Now, once Harry followed through on that instruction to go to Unis World, Calais was able to take that digital body, put it in the human body, make him vulnerable to mentalics. And then he worked with Gale to create the second foundation. I almost feel like my guy is a sleeper agent, or at the very least, he's compromised. I can't help but wonder, how would this have gone if Gale stayed behind on the first foundation? Anyway, I think Calais has a bone to pick with Demerzel. I don't know if it's as straightforward as Calais being on the opposing side in the machine war, but I suspect that has something to do with a shared past between them. I mean, Demerzel's like, what, 18,000 years old? Anyway, that's my long, wild theory about Harry White. We'll see. Hopefully they expound on that in season 3. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm on episode 2 of season 3 right now because I'm trying to get these deep dives done. I'm taking them one episode at a time. You guys know how I did it with From. I don't really want to give inauthentic or fake theories or anything like that. So I'm doing it one episode at a time. Watch one, do all that, do the video, and then move on to the next one. That's just been my approach. But it makes me wonder where this is all leading. If Gale didn't stay behind to found the second foundation, would we even have a mule? Remember, they told us, like, originally Harry predicted 3 or 4 crises. Now he's seeing a lot more. So we'll see. We'll see if the mule is one of those added on crises that were created now that Gale went off plan. But anyway, that's my big theory about the foundation, why it's happening. Let me see real quick. Do we have any more time? I'm already over my 2-hour mark that I normally stick to. Let me see. One moment. Got my new mic. I hope it sounds good. Hope you guys are enjoying the improved sound quality. If it sounds at all better. But let's see. Do I have any more time? Because we could do one more maybe, right? Ain't nothing to do. Do one more. Yeah, why not? Let's do one more, right? Let's do the next episode. Let's do episode 4. Let's do it.